Brunton. Councillor Black, I have you on the speaker's list.
Mr. Chairman, through you to staff. Speaking to some of the staff members about retaining wall budgets, that we really are being overwhelmed with retaining walls throughout the county. And I thought, and I've seen, Norfolk County removing some retaining walls in Simcoe. One recently at 312 Colburn Street North.
Point of order, Mr. Chair. Are we talking about Simcoe or Port Rowan?
I'm going to let him continue. Go ahead, Peter.
And talking about a policy on retaining walls, which I think would include this. So, and as an example, I was using Simcoe, 312 Colburn Street North, and some other places in Simcoe where the retaining walls were eliminated. So is this not the new direction throughout all of Norfolk, that where we can eliminate retaining walls? And the question would be, would this be a candidate for elimination?
Through the chairman to council, I don't think anything has changed. We continue to attempt to eliminate retaining walls wherever possible. When the deputation came forward historically, that was what we had originally recommended, was that the retaining wall be removed, and the deputation spoke to it and is not desirous of having the retaining wall removed. They want the retaining wall to remain.
Okay, how high is that retaining wall?
The retaining wall, in order to require a guard, must be higher than 1.2 meters, so it's at least 4 feet tall.
At least 4 feet tall. Well, I'd suggest that if we're eliminating retaining walls, that's what we do, because we don't have enough money in the budget to take care of all of them.
Through the chairman to council, it's not always possible to remove a retaining wall. If there's not sufficient room to grade it from the street back to the front of the house, we can't remove a retaining wall. So we do remove the retaining walls as often as possible. This house is set fairly close to the,
so it's not
to the property line. In this particular case, we could have done some regrading and significantly reduced the height of the retaining wall, but we couldn't have eliminated it.
Okay.
Thank you. Councillor Wells.
Thank you very much, Mr. Chair. Mr. Chair, now that we've solved this problem, I'm going to give this back to Port Rowan and get it out of Port Dover. Thank you.
Okay. Anyone else? Councillor Height has moved. Councillor Brunton has seconded the recommendation in the report. Any other speakers? Call the question. All in favor? That is passed. Thank you. Let's go to page 239. Traffic beacon, Prospect Street at Tisdale Road in Port Dover. Ms. Robinson.
Through the chairman to council, before you is a report that was requested by council with respect to whether or not a flashing traffic beacon could be installed at Prospect Street and Tisdale in Port Dover, and staff have prepared that. And although there is no technical justification provided to install a flashing traffic beacon, it is certainly council's ability to do so should you wish. And we've prepared the report, and I'd be happy to answer any questions.
Councillor Wells.
Thank you very much, and I do thank Ms. Robinson. Staff, if we as a council have suggested that she look into this, she is only doing her job. I was up there again today to look at this after I read the report, and I know that we have had numerous people living in that area suggesting they had a problem with speeding. And I'm not sure that putting a flashing light up on Teesdale is going to help the speeding any. And then, after I was going to swallow my pride and say, well, maybe it would, then I looked at the price tag at $30,000, and I haven't changed my mind. I'm not sure that we need. I don't know what a flashing light is going to do, so maybe I could ask Ms. Robinson to explain to me why we should invest $30,000 on a flashing light to do what? And I don't mean to be disrespectful, Mr. Chair.
Through the chair to council, again, staff provided this report based on the direction provided by council. The concern was not with respect to speeding, it was to drawing more attention to the intersection, and that you need to be paying attention in the intersection. That's the purpose of a flashing beacon. Lots of times flashing traffic beacons can be installed much cheaper than this, depending on how the hydro exists and poles exist, etc. This is one of the more expensive cases. And so again, there really isn't a technical recommendation ever to install a traffic beacon. It's just simply more attention to the intersection, should council desire to do that.
Thank you. Councillor Black.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman, and through you, did we think about a three-way stop there? Was that part of the original recommendation at all, or would you consider that?
Through the chairman to council, this was as the result of an accident that occurred, and that council asked us to investigate that. We have on other situations reviewed on multiple times, putting in a stop sign in the three-way stop in that intersection, and there are lots of reasons to do it and lots of reasons not to do it. We had previously reported on that matter, and council had made the decision not to go ahead with that at this time.
Yeah, I thought we had a report on that before. And, you know, there's similar problems throughout the county where you've got a road coming down the hill, and cars generally tend to speed up. So this is more of a local road, and the people that are using it, they know that road, and they know that they should be slowing down. Whether or not a $30,000 light would help them do it, I rather doubt it, because they're already aware of the situation. So I couldn't support the 30,000 either.
Okay, Councillor Brunton.
Well, I heard Lee say that we could, there's reasons to and not to put up stop signs. If we think there's a problem, let's try the stop signs. See if that's wishes, but I can't support $30,000. Thank you.
Thank you. Mayor Luke.
I move we receive it as information.
Okay. You've heard the motion? Oh, second.
Need a seconder.
Councillor Columbus. Councillor Height.
Speaking to the motion, Mr. Chair, maybe the councillor of the ward could stand out there during rush hours in the mornings and afternoon and solve his community's problem instead of complaining about the price tag in the report right now, Mr. Chair.
Okay, we have a motion to receive it as information, and that's it. All in favor? Thank you. I think that brings us to the next report, 243. Oh, what are you doing up there?
I never get to stand up here. Thank you, Mr. Chair. Before you is report CM 1706, and it relates to a number of procedural bylaw amendments, which are the result of Bill 68 amendments to the Municipal Act. On January 1st of 2018, 4 new closed session exemptions will be added to the Municipal Act. The first 3 are mirrored on the Municipal Freedom of Information exemptions. Exemption H relates to information provided to us by the Crown, Province, or Crown Agency. Of important note to this exemption is that the confidentiality isn't determined by us, it's determined by the agency providing it to us. So it's not open to our interpretation at all. We're told whether or not it's confidential. Exemption I relates to trade secrets or other similar information that could jeopardize a group's competitive position. Generally, the Information and Privacy Commission has a very narrow view on what actually qualifies for this area. So as a result, it's difficult to prove and is routinely contested in access requests. Exemption J relates to trade secrets of a municipality. So a good example is if we developed our own device and we're going to trademark it, you can imagine how frequent that actually occurs. It's not very often. And exemption K is affectionately called Special K by a lot of clerks. It's the most hazardous new addition, as it could be used to justify almost any closed session discussion. The vagueness of K means that any municipality that utilizes this provision in 2018 can almost guarantee a closed session complaint and an investigation. So that's the one that's really dangerous there. Council Services is strongly recommending none of these exemptions be used in 2018. There will be a period where there's rulings from the Ombudsman, and one of the interesting things with these new exemptions is we expect the Ombudsman's Office to actually fight with the Information and Privacy Commissioner of Ontario on a lot of these definitions because they have very different interpretations. We could have a situation where we win a closed session investigation, but then the IPC is telling us to release closed session documents. So it's very unusual to have such scenarios play out, and we just kind of want to encourage to stand on the background and watch all the case law get created. With the advent of, that's kind of the closed session ones. The next one is kind of the advent of the ability for councils to participate electronically. Coming in January 1st, 2018, we can have electronic participation in meetings as long as we include it in our procedural bylaw. We don't want to be the first municipality doing that, so in the interim what we're suggesting is just tightening up the procedural bylaw a little bit to ensure that there's no misinterpretation and that we're not going to be having any electronic debates. Part of that means that if there's some dialogue going along amongst council members, we have to be very adamant in saying we can't be doing that. We need to keep all debate in this session here, just to avoid that, especially starting in January 1st, 2018, because there is a potential we could face closed session investigations for things that have been deemed rather innocuous to date. So that's just an important thing. If we don't change the procedural bylaw in that regard, it doesn't actually mean that we're allowing electronic participation. We have to take further active measures to go there, to actively allow electronic participation. We're recommending some changes to the definition of deputy mayor as well. Failure of council to delegate authority to the deputy mayor will actually mean that starting January 1st, all they can do is preside at meetings. So they won't be able to serve as a corporate signing officer or do any other things unless we actually change it to broaden the delegation a little bit, just because they're changing the wording of how deputy mayor is defined in the Municipal Act. The final change is the one that actually isn't required till March of 2019. It's filing hard copies of declarations of interest. So it will become a requirement to file these and keep them on records almost as a registry in March of 2019. It isn't currently, but it's a fairly easy thing to do. We can print them and have them on hand here at the meetings for members to fill them out and file them while you're declaring. So we thought it would be something easy to just check off at this point. And with that, I'm happy to try to answer any questions you may have.
Councillor Brunton.
Question through you to Andy. Andy, when you have to declare a conflict here on the back, how much detail do you need there? Like, got a lot of lines on there to fill out.
I've talked to somebody who said that at one time they had three pages attached to a declaration and submitted. So I mean, certainly we would never tell you to include less than you feel is pertinent. There is always, we need to understand the nature of the conflict. So it's, I mean, if it's a relative, what is it, pecuniary, what kind of nature of the conflict. So the more information you provide, though, the better. Eventually, when we do have an integrity commissioner, because that will be required in March 1st of 2019, they will have the capacity to look at municipal conflict of interest. So the complaint system for conflict of interest will be completely different. And this form will form an important part. So giving the integrity commissioner more information to review is important.
And is that where we will be allowed to ask if we have, like, give us some advice on a conflict? I thought I heard that somewhere.
Through you, Mr. Chair. Yes, but you'll have to put it in writing just to make sure that we have a trail. But anytime that you want municipal conflict of interest information or details, you can just put a written request and file it to the integrity commissioner per the legislation.
Thank you.
Okay. Councillor Oliver.
Thanks, Mr. Chairman. I have no problem with what Andy has reported to us on and have in the recommendation, with one exception, and that is his suggestion that we should put text in our procedural bylaw regarding this electronic meeting thing. I'm actually quite pleased to see the province is amending the act to allow for electronic meetings to occur starting in 2018. And it would be my hope, although I won't be here that much longer, but it would be my hope that council will direct at the earliest opportunity to have that allowed within our procedural bylaw. So to me, I see no reason whatsoever to insert text here now that specifically says we're not going to do it. We don't have to put this text in. the province is heading in the other direction, quite frankly, and it would be counterproductive. So I don't support that. I support everything else in the recommendation except that.
Okay. Anyone else? What's your wishes? Councillor Oliver.
Mr. Chair, I would move the recommendation in the report except item 2 of 4.
Councillor Height, speaking to that? Okay, seconded. Any other comments? Councillor Columbus?
Well, I'd like Andy to share with us what all this electronic media, what's the meaning of it? Define it. Does that mean we could be in Austria and be participating in the meeting? Is that what I think it means?
Through you, Mr. Chair, good question. One of the provisions when we do include it, and we will hopefully look at it, hopefully to coincide with, I hate to plug the council chamber renos, but hopefully we could get some new technology in here and also make it more viable. Yes, but we will also have to have a quorum in this room. So as long as we have a quorum, that's an important thing for all committees that get into the electronic one, is that we'll always have to have a quorum in this room, and then we can have members participate electronically. The big thing that a lot of clerks are scratching their heads over is what happens when we go in closed session, because it isn't specifically allowed in closed session. So you would be excluded electronically from the whole conversation, and then you would see everybody else come out here having gotten advice from the county solicitor and vote upon that advice, and you'd be going, what's going on here? Why did they completely change their mind on this issue? So there is that kind of difficulty with it, but I think overall, when we're looking at the ability to participate and the geographic nature of this municipality is something very worthwhile looking at getting in place here.
Anyone else? We have a motion. Okay, the motion is as printed with the deletion of number 2. All those in favor? That is carried. Thank you. I think that brings us to the end of our agenda. Oh, I know that. Yeah. We'll start on the right-hand side of the room. Any of you three got some other business? Good. This side of the room, any three got any other business? No. Mr. County Manager. No. Nothing there? I'll come back to you. Okay. Councillor Oliver, please. Nothing. Councillor Columbus.
I just wanted to say that the community of Delhi had a wonderful Santa Claus parade. It occurs in the evening in the dark. A lot of nice lit up floats. It was the best parade ever, and Mayor Luke and I got to judge the prizes for the floats.
Thank you for that. Councillor Geisens.
Thank you. Santa Claus parade starts at, I believe, 11 o'clock on Saturday, so anybody who wants to come on down to Langton. Thank you. Okay.
Councillor Height.
Nothing, Chairman Sonnenberg.
Thank you. Councillor Brunton.
Just one question. Where do we go with our meeting from last Thursday? Councillor Oliver perhaps could answer that. What's the plan of attack?
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I'm happy to try, and I'll look to Andy for some help as well. We are planning on having another meeting of the advisory committee on Monday, this coming Monday at 1 p.m. I think this one is happening in the Norfolk room at the Rec Center. Just to sort of finish any outstanding items that we didn't get dealt with at the meeting before, and also to review our minutes. And the reason why I emphasize that is Andy has told me, the clerk has told me, that he will endeavor to have the minutes of the various meetings of the subcommittee, including last week's minutes, on the agenda for next Tuesday's council meeting. And the intent, I think, if he's able to do that, then we will, as a committee, seek some direction from council as a whole as to whether or not you need anything more from the subcommittee, or whether you have as much as you need from the subcommittee. Because the clerk has quite correctly steered me correctly in that we have to be careful that the subcommittee doesn't go beyond what its mandate was and is.
Okay, I guess my question is then,
I anticipate when that report comes here to this council, that there could be a lengthy debate. And if there is, would that be suffice to hold that next Tuesday? Or would it be a case of adopt for now as consideration or something like that? I'm wondering how we will deal with that.
It would be my expectation, and again, the clerk or the CAO will correct me, but you may just accept those minutes as information. That's not binding you to anything in those minutes at that point. You simply have the recommendations of the committee that came out of the meeting last Thursday. And there were several, and they were good recommendations, but that's all they are at this point. And so I think I was happy to see us just carry on merrily on our way, and the clerk pulled in the reins and said, no, you've got to review with council whether or not your mandate has been fulfilled. If so, we're done, the committee disbands. If not, we could have further meetings to deal with whatever else you felt should be dealt with by that committee. And maybe the mayor or Mr. Cridlin would comment further.
Sorry I asked.
On this, Mayor Luke?
Yeah, I'm on the same page as Councillor Brunton. I don't know what the agenda looks like for our last meeting next week before a month break, but I would agree that there certainly has to be discussion. The recommendations will be discussed to any length that we wish at council. That's the whole idea. So whether there's time next week or whether we simply, if we do get the information, we can defer it and look at it over the next month and go at it in January. I know January is going to be a very busy month once we get back with the budget, but Mr. Chair, I'm kind of thinking that maybe next Tuesday, and again, I don't know how thick the agenda is. Hopefully it's not 7¼ hours long, but I don't want to start a lengthy debate and discussion next week if we can avoid it. Yeah. If we're going to have a big agenda on the recreation recommendations. I think it's pretty important to have the energy and time to hammer this out. Thank you.
Okay, Doug? I'm going to return to the county manager.
The Ministry of Agriculture, Food and Rural Affairs has its 2017 Premier's Award for Agri-Food Innovation Excellence. Although they don't inform us which Norfolk area business or businesses are up for awards, the letter does indicate that there is at least one, if not more than one. The award ceremony is on Friday, December the 8th in Cambridge, Ontario. We are obligated to RSVP attendance should any member of council wish to do so. There will be 2 or 3 at most staff members present. And if so, would you please be so kind as to either inform myself or the mayor or our staff, and we will make the appropriate arrangements tomorrow morning. But we need to know tomorrow to be able to RSVP. And someone in Norfolk, at least one corporation in Norfolk's done exceptionally well, and maybe far more than that.
Thank you for that.
Oh, the ceremony is at, well, someone knows better than I then. I'm reading this and I don't see a time on it, but I have every reason to believe 3 p.m. is correct. At 350 Pine Bush Road, Cambridge, Ontario, which is the Ontario Mutual Insurance Association building.
Okay, thank you. Councillor Noir.
Je m'appelle Pierre Noir.
I hope you two are not swearing at each other.
No. Just one thing, and last week, and I know the mayor, I believe the mayor presented a 90th anniversary certificate to Carter's Menswear in downtown Simcoe, and just want to publicly acknowledge that business that has been there since 1917 and started with Percy Carter. We have a park named after Percy Carter here in Simcoe. And then the 2 brothers took it over, Herb and Harry. And then another 2 brothers, Cam, ended up taking care of the business. He's been there for, I think, some 30 years. And it has been very successful and has survived the disappearance of many other men's clothing stores like Grummet's or Post's or Bloom's or a number of stores that have disappeared, Astles, but Carter's has survived. They still seem to do well and provide an excellent service, and I think that's the main thing. I would rather go there and buy my clothing because they do give excellent service and have excellent quality clothing. The whole family, all of them have been very community-minded, involved in municipal politics, and they deserve the recognition that they've received for being there for 90 years.
Thank you. Councillor Wells.
Thank you very much, Mr. Chair. You'd be pleased to know I only have one small little problem that I wish to bring up that's happening in Port Dover.
Keep it short.
It'll be very short, Mr. Chair. That's why I say only one. And and it's happening on Dover Mills Road. And this is important for Ms. Robinson, on Dover Mills Road. I have a developer contractor up there who is clearing some topsoil off of one of his fields where he is going to develop up there. And he's going down Dover Mills Road about 200 meters. And of course, when the trucks are going to get to the other side, they happen to unfortunately leave large clumps of mud on the road. And unfortunately, the neighbors are not too happy with that. And they have called me, and I said, well, it just so happens you're in luck because I'm going to meet with Ms. Robinson tonight, and I know that she will tell me what our policy is. And I'll stop talking now, Mr. Chair.
Thank you.
Through the chairman to council, if that is as a result of the development, I will successfully pass that one off to Mr. Baird's group, but either way, we will get it addressed for you.
Okay. Mayor Luke.
I have 4 quick ones here. First of all, I just want to recognize and thank Steph, Jill, Maureen for decorating this morning. Get us in the Christmas spirit. Looks very nice. Thank you. That's one. Number 2, Councillor Columbus, when I was in Delhi last Thursday, asked me, actually it was Saturday night, sorry, I was with him Friday and Saturday, to provide council with a copy of the Globe and Mail's Friday's edition on the personal grow-ops. I hope you've got that. It's good reading, particularly if you can read page 2, it really puts it plainly what the problem is. I'm not going to get into it. Obviously you can read, but I wanted to say thanks, and I $4.80 for Friday's Globe, but it's on me. Don't thank me, it's okay. I got a schedule, Mr. Chair, on my desk tonight, I believe. Or did that come in our package? On the desk, thank you. First time I've seen it. Is it official? Who made it up? I see there's only 2 meetings in March, never had that before. Council going to have any input on this schedule? Who made it up? Is it final? What's the scoop? First time I've seen it. We've always approved our schedules here at Council. I'm not complaining, I'm just asking. Yeah, I think I got the answer.
Not working.
Yeah, I think I know who's behind
Through you,
it.
Mr. Chair. Yes, so the schedule, I'd say about 2 years ago, the procedural bylaw was changed so that there isn't actually a requirement for council approval of the actual schedule. However, it was presented 3 times this year because there were small revisions in the information memos in the information package. So that one was presented, and the information memo for the most recent one that was in early November kind of just said if anybody wants to raise this schedule as an issue, we'll discuss it, and there was no interest in raising it, I suppose. Obviously, you missed that one.
Thank you, Mr. Clerk. Mr. Chair, no sense embarrass me anymore. I usually get everything, or I try to see everything. Sometimes some of the stuff just kind of slips by, and so my apologies for wasting your time. The last one's a good announcement. I got an email this morning from Virginia Lucas. Some of you will recall that she is, along with Eric Haberkamp, done a ton of work in leadership in the churches out serving and we believe in Simcoe Day. And as you know, recently Churches Out Service a year ago bought Riverside 83, the former liquor board downtown. And as you know, they were awarded by council tonight some grant money, but there was a lot of voting going on in the last month. I did some myself, staff and whoever, and they are the successful winners of the 2017 Canadian Aviva Awards. They are some excited, $50,000 here for Ontario. Winners across Canada, they are the Ontario winner of $50,000 to put into renovating Riverside 83. This is a tremendous project for this county that's being put together by volunteers. So this is a real shot in the arm. And for those that saw it on YouTube today, Virginia holding up the announcement at the government facility, she was dancing and doing somersaults and it was wonderful. Thank you.